The fluorescent lights above flickered, casting an eerie glow on the cold conference room table. I sat across from Graham Vickers, the newly appointed CTO of Veltria Housing. He was younger than me by a decade, with the cocky confidence of someone who had never been in the trenches. He didn't understand the company's systems, didn't even know how deep my fingerprints were on everything. And yet there he was, sitting in judgment, as if he had any idea what it took to keep the entire operation running smoothly. "I'm sorry, Victor, but we've decided to let you go," Graham said, his voice barely above a whisper, but firm. "We can get 3 junior engineers for your salary. The board feels this is the best way forward." I blinked, stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The words felt like they were coming from a distant place. This wasn't happening, not to me. Not after everything I had done for this company. Not after 18 years of blood, sweat, and late nights, building Veltria from a small regional player into a multi-million-dollar powerhouse. I swallowed hard. "Cost-cutting?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. "How exactly do you propose replacing my systems with junior engineers?" Graham's expression never faltered. He had probably rehearsed this moment 100 times. "You've built something complex. Too complex," he said. "It's unnecessary. We're looking to standardize. Replace your systems with something off the shelf. It'll save us millions." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had spent years designing the infrastructure, each component, each server, every line of code meticulously thought out. I wasn't just another cog in the machine. I was the machine. Without me, Veltria would fall apart, and they knew it. I took a deep breath, fighting the sting in my chest. "Graham, this isn't just about cost. You're talking about something far more important than that. You're talking about the future of this company." He looked at me, almost with pity. "You've been indispensable, Victor. I'll give you that. But the future is about scalability, not custom solutions." So I stared at him, a deep anger stirring inside me, but I kept it buried. Instead, I stood up slowly, grabbed my personal items from the desk, and packed them into a box. No words, no goodbyes. I was done. The door closed behind me with a soft thud. For the first time in years, I felt an eerie sense of calm. As I walked to my car, I realized it wasn't just the job I was leaving behind, it was my legacy. The systems I had spent nearly 2 decades building, gone. I drove home that evening, numb, my mind a swirl of emotions. Elaine, my wife, looked at me with concern as I stepped through the door. "What happened?" she asked gently. "They let me go," I said flatly, the words still surreal in my mind. "Cost-cutting measures." She hugged me tightly. "I'm so sorry, Victor." I nodded, but I wasn't sure if I was sorry for myself or for the company that had just lost its lifeblood. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing. I knew Veltria's systems better than anyone. The junior engineers they hired wouldn't last a week. Graham's grand plan would fail spectacularly, and I would be on the outside, watching it all unfold. But I also realized something else. I didn't need Veltria anymore. It was time to find a new path. 2 weeks after the termination, I tried to adjust to my new reality. I spent days sending out resumes, making calls, and waiting for the inevitable offers that never came. My phone rarely rang. I wasn't just unemployed. I was a pariah in the industry. Then the call came. It was Alan, one of the few engineers I'd trusted at Veltria. He had been with the company for nearly as long as I had, and unlike most, he was loyal to the systems we had built. "Victor," Alan's voice was tight with urgency, "I need to show you something. You need to see this." The next morning, Alan showed up at my door, his laptop in hand. We sat at the kitchen table, and he quickly opened up a series of emails he'd discovered in the system archives, emails between Graham and the board of directors. I leaned in, reading each line with a sense of dread building in my stomach. It was all there. Graham had been working with the board for months to phase me out. They had even set a timeline. My position would be terminated and my systems replaced with cheaper, off-the-shelf solutions within 6 months. They had projected a savings of over $1 million annually. They had planned everything down to the last detail, even discussing how to disguise the layoffs as a restructuring. But what struck me the most was one particular line from Graham himself. "Victor's custom systems are unnecessarily complex. He's made himself indispensable by design, not necessity." I felt a wave of cold rage wash over me. I'd never wanted to be indispensable. I had built the systems to last, to scale, to withstand anything. But to them, my work had only been a tool to pad their bottom line. To Graham, I wasn't a respected colleague. I was just an obstacle standing in the way of their profits. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked, barely able to keep the bitterness from my voice. Alan closed the laptop slowly. "Because I quit yesterday. And I'm not the only one. Half the IT department's gone. They're already failing, Victor. And Westbrook Properties, their biggest client, is threatening to pull out. I'm telling you, this is a disaster waiting to happen." I processed his words slowly, the implications dawning on me. Westbrook represented nearly 30% of Veltria's revenue. Losing them would be catastrophic for the company, especially with the sale looming. But what could I do? My hands were tied. "Why are you here, Alan?" I asked, confusion creeping into my voice. Alan looked me in the eye. "Because I need to move on. And honestly, I was hoping Devlin Systems might be hiring. You know, I've been looking for a better opportunity." I smiled grimly. "We'll see about that." That night I spoke to Lawrence Devlin, CEO of Devlin Systems. He listened as I explained the situation, and by the end of our conversation I knew I had a decision to make. But the road ahead wouldn't be easy. It would take time, effort, and a lot of rebuilding. I'd been thrown out of Veltria. But the real question was, could I build something even better from the ashes? The following weeks were a blur of meetings, planning, and setting up my new role at Devlin Systems. Lawrence Devlin, the CEO, was eager to bring me on board, but there was still a question hanging in the air. Would I take the job? I had spent my entire career at Veltria. It was hard to let go. But what had happened there, how they had discarded me so coldly, had left a bitter taste in my mouth. I was tired of being treated as disposable. The decision had to be about more than just money or opportunity. It had to be about my values. Then I got a call from an unexpected source. Justin, Value, the former owner's son, still on the Veltria board. His voice was almost apologetic. "Victor," he said, "I want to apologize. The board was misled. Graham's been removed. He's no longer CTO. And we're struggling to recover. Westbrook is about to leave, and the systems are still broken. If you ever want to come back, the door is open." I listened to his words, the offer hanging in the air, but it didn't matter. I wasn't going back. "I'm done with Veltria," I said quietly, knowing it was the right decision. "But thank you for reaching out." As I hung up the phone, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. This wasn't about revenge. It was about moving forward, creating something that would last, something that wouldn't be dismantled by greed or short-sighted decisions. A few weeks later, I found myself in a new office, working with a new team at Devlin Systems. Lawrence was eager to get things rolling, and I was ready. But then another call came, this time from Jeffrey Westbrook, the CEO of Westbrook Properties. He wanted to meet. "Victor," he said, shaking my hand firmly, "I hear you're the system architect. Lawrence says you've built something that won't break down when we scale." I smiled, knowing what he meant. Veltria had failed them. Now, I had the chance to do it right. "We've heard about your system," Jeffrey continued, "but we're facing a crisis. Veltria's systems are falling apart, and we need a new solution. We're ready to switch to Devlin, but there's one condition. You have to build us something better, something future-proof." It felt like a slap in the face, but in the best possible way. They needed me. And now, I had the chance to prove my worth, once and for all. Back at Veltria, things were unraveling fast. Westbrook had pulled out, just like Alan had predicted. Without that major contract, the company's stock value plummeted. Graham was nowhere to be found. The junior engineers couldn't get the systems back online. As Devlin Systems grew, I kept hearing snippets of information. Veltria